Welcome to this video, round 9, the final round for the Town Memorial 2013. It has been really a roller coaster of a tournament where Nakamura for a long while looked like going to get his one of the best results of his career, and then he lost 2 games first against Gelfand and then against Carlsen. And now Nakamura is down to +1, and Gelfand is looking like the most likely turnout winner with +3 going into this final round. And Carlsen is just half a point behind. But we get to this near the end of the video. Let's look at some other games first. We start with Caruana against Andreikin. Caruana is having a decent tournament, and if he's going to win this game, or if he would win this game, I understand that he's getting above 2,800, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody wrote that yesterday in some forum. I didn't really check that, but if not, he's very close. I mean, he's 2,774 here in the text here on the ICC, and I know he gained some points in the Grand Prix and even here, so he's world number 3 at the moment. So a win for Caruana would net him to 8 probably. And Andreikin is playing an excellent tournament. He beat Kramnik and didn't lose a game, so being the rating underdog, this is excellent. So we have Rui and Andreikin playing the deferred, or sometimes called improved, Steinitz with d6. This is in fact a line that is very interesting for black. If you want to play something slightly out of the ordinary, the point of this move order is, despite instead of knight f6 and bishop e7, that you have some flexibility in regards to your king side. Sometimes you can even play f5, like in this line, the so-called siesta variation. Not quite sure why it is called siesta variation, but it's quite interesting and okay for black. And black oftentimes manages to play g6 instead of bishop e7, and we see that in the game. c3, bishop d7, castles, g6, d4, and bishop g7. I just saw that don't have any sound. I like this little clicks. Bishop g7. So black fianchettoed the bishop. h3, all the normal Rui moves. Knight f6, rook e1, castles, knight d2. All very standard looking. But in contrast to some other Rui Lopez lines, black has this fianchetto. And quite often the bishop is not bad on g7. Rook e8, bishop c2. Yeah, and now it's interesting. Black certainly has more than one valid setup. One thing he needs to address is this piece, the knight on c6. It's not very well placed here, because those squares are controlled by white pawn on c3, and you'd like to improve this piece and use the c pawn somehow. What Andreikin is doing is quite a good maneuver now. He's playing queen here, knight f1, and queen to f8. So the queen is out of the way, and maybe black can even manage to play rook d8, bishop c8, d5, something like that, play in the center. And also there is bishop h6, the right moment. It's not so easy for white now to make any progress without playing d5, and in fact Caruana played d5 just now, right before black could go for d65 himself. So we get this closed position that is a bit similar to the King's Indian. The only difference is, there are a couple because of the piece placement, but it's the same structure. White has the pawn on c3, but it's a very similar structure. Knight h2 and bishop h6. This is one good point of the queen f8 maneuver. This bad bishop is exchanged, and now the queen occupies this good spot. Yeah, in fact, I like black strategy. It looks fine to me. Probably the position is only very slightly better for white due to the space advantage, but it's nothing too serious. Black has ideas like f5, of course, and something that he played in the game, knight h5. This is quite interesting. I think, I don't know, like 50 years ago, this kind of move would have been revolutionary to allow the pawn structure to be shattered, but ever since Fischer allowed the same thing against Spassky in Reykjavik 72, this is nothing special anymore today. Yeah, f5, black gets the G file, and these pawns, okay, they are not pretty, but how does white win them? It's not clear how to do that. This simply makes sure that black has counterplay, and it also opens up, as we see later. Black played f5. We see later that black has this idea. Getting rid of the g-pawn, transferring it to h5, opening the position up, gives black definite counterplay with open lines. And the problem is that white doesn't really have a useful pawn break. He would like to play c4, c5, the c-file, but this is all terribly slow. So white needs to be rather modest here. There is not much that you can do. Caruana is just defending here. Defending this, defending that. And with the rook, I mean. So that black cannot sack the exchange or something. And it's not a big problem. White with some good moves keeps the position equal. White really doesn't have much in terms of active play. He can just make sure, as mentioned, that nothing terrible happens. Well, black has got some activity, but I did some checks also with the comp. It never gave black anything substantial, especially after the knight has been rerouted to e4. Obviously a nice post, but white is in no position to really play for a win here. Yeah, this is another idea, getting the knight on this nice post. Yeah, h6 was hanging, otherwise this would be nice, but this is hanging. So queen here, rook e4, and here the game was in fact drawn. So a good result for Andreikin, +1, and Caruana, okay, he probably isn't terribly excited about his tournament, but it was very solid. Knight d4 is the move you kind of expect, but white can always sack the exchange if he wants, or play king g2. This exchange sack, check. Let's say something like this. It's always interesting for white with this kind of idea coming, or you can simply ignore it. I mean, to be honest, shouldn't black play on here with knight d4? I didn't analyze this so much really, but he could have done that. After rook takes d4, I don't think black is risking much, but maybe white can just ignore the knight. Can you ignore it? Something like that. Yeah, it's not so clear what black is actually doing here. You can put it here, but what are you threatening? This is not possible. Yeah, I guess a draw is not too far off. It's a pretty logical result. Okay, Kayakin Anand next. Anand also having a rotten tournament. He's got black now and playing the knight off. And Kayakin plays bishop g5, the traditional sharp main line of the knight off, where white is trying a sort of serve and volley approach, and queen b6 is the infamous poison pawn. Queen d2, queen b2, queen d2, queen b2, rook b1, queen a3. This is the mainline position here. Of course, this opening has been a favorite of Fischer's from back in the 60s, and then Kasparov was the main practitioner, not only of the knight off but also of queen b6. He had good results with that all the time. But Kasparov didn't face bishop g5 so often. People simply didn't dare to do that, or in some occasions they played it to make a draw, because here there are some lines that are forced draws. But okay, this is not an issue here. Karjakin playing e5. This move had been forgotten for ages, and then it was unearthed a couple of years ago. h6, bishop h4. This is inserted, and now black takes. After the recapture, the traditional main move here always has been knight f to d7, after which, if I'm not mistaken, white has, amongst others, tried the move bishop b5. This is the position. There are similar positions. The comp is actually telling me it's not working. Why? I'm not quite sure why. Queen c5. Okay, I see. Yeah, well, there are many crazy complications. I'm probably screwing some move order up here. In any case, Anand played knight d5, which is a recent development. This move was virtually unknown a couple of years ago. Takes and e6. It's looking really dangerous for black. I mean, he's got no pieces out. But the issue is not so much that black is a pawn up, but also that from a structural point of view, white is very bad shape. This is very weak. This pawn is weak. I mean, okay, it's getting lost or traded now, but he's got lots of structural weaknesses. And if black survives this attack, he certainly is in fine shape. Anand took this. And here I only have found moves with knight takes e6. This has been played before. I need to look it up quickly. Yeah, this has been played before. Takes, bishop to d3, bishop e7, and bishop g6 check. This has been played before in more than one game actually, and it very often ended in a draw, like some perpetual or very sharp sequence where some repetition was necessary. But here Karjakin plays differently. I'm not sure if it's a novelty, because I don't have all the latest games in my database. I've got most, but I'm not so confident to say that this is a novelty. He took on b7, which is not a revolutionary move. But the difference is, after bishop d6 and the exchange, the difference is that black here actually has the opportunity to castle. In the other line this wasn't possible. Important is of course that white cannot take here, because bishop b4 wins the queen. So white played bishop to e2, amongst others this idea. And he's not going to d3, because after castles he intended queen d4. This was played, and now rook f7, which is necessary. This May threat was very dangerous. So it took, check, and castles with check. So it's clear that white has got some attack. I mean, he's got this as a target, check, but black can secure the pawn with the check. We had now some check repetition, and now white avoids it. Check. Yeah, he just gives away the h-pawn, but it's a concrete line. This mate threat is so strong, black needs to get the queens off. He plays queen f4 check, gets traded, and bishop g4. So e6 is attacked, and there's also, if black would do this, there's this coming. So black needs to give it up. Check. Yeah, it was two pieces hanging. So
Check.
we saw this.
Check.
And after rook takes e2, very shortly afterwards, they agree to a draw. Yeah, exactly here. Yeah, this is completely dead. Yeah, I guess a very theoretical game. This happens in those very sharp lines of the knight off. They both have their prep, and if it's a draw, it can happen that they both just play their preparation. It's also possible that one of them had some idea and at the board couldn't make it work, and couldn't really make it work, and then had to go to the draw. It's not always the case that what you sometimes hear, well, they don't fight, whatever. It's a sharp line, but sometimes it happens simply that the draw is the logical result of the game. So next game, let's go to Nakamura against Morozevich. So Naka really on the down, pretty down, I guess, after the two losses. It's now a chance to maybe do something against Moro, who's near the bottom of the table. Yeah, bishop g5 is a somewhat unusual move here. One idea is that after this, black has this move or this move or this one. So some specific lines after bishop g5 there are slight differences. For example, c5 isn't such a great move here because white now can transpose into proper terrace. There is not something like this or knight d5, and it's not a good form of the terrace. So black usually replies here bishop e7, going to the classical queen's gambit, or plays this h6 is another move. Okay, but here, what about this position? Here knight c3 transposes back into the regular queen's gambit, Rogozin variation. But Nakamura had a different idea. He played knight b to d2. And this is in fact interesting, but also slightly risky. Moro has got nothing to lose. He grabs the pawn. It's also probably the best move. Take the pawn while you have the chance. e3 and b5 to protect the pawn here. Black is really defending the pawn. It's possible here. One issue for white, of course, is that in this gambit style position, the knight on d2 isn't such a great piece. It's not putting any pressure on b5, for example. Yeah, this is all fairly normal now. Queen c2, bishop b7, bishop e2, knight bd7. By the way, I'm quite curious that they both played this so quickly, as this is a very unusual line. There are basically no games in the database of this. So interesting, they played really quickly. Yeah, maybe also they both wanted to get this over with. It sometimes happens. You're in the last round and both players really know it's a rotten tournament, but you don't want to draw, and then you just play some quick moves and suddenly you're in some fight. It's quite interesting what's happening here. b3, c3. Yeah, if black would have taken here, then one idea is knight b3 to control the c5 square and make sure that this bishop is not activated. In fact, this is the whole theme now of the game, that this bishop on b7 isn't great and would like to play c5. In the game, c3 was played, knight e4, and then h6. Yeah, Nakamura now took on, he played this, sorry, I confused the move orders. Bishop h4, and then g5 was played. Here white could play bishop g3 or take first. He took first. I think also this is better than bishop g3, but the position you need to look at is here. Here Morozevich played a very interesting move. He's got more than one possible continuation, but he just played the most interesting move that also addresses the main problem of black's position perfectly. He played c5, immediately opening up this bishop, and this is a strong piece now, not being incarcerated behind the pawn on c6. It's also returning a pawn. Yeah, and Naka took the pawn. Also probably the best, simply get this back. Bishop e4, and this bishop is immediately active now. Queen e2 and rook c8. So it's equal material, and black hopes that this pawn is an important asset, while white hopes that this is a weakness. Both is true, and let's see what happens. Bishop a6, took on d4, knight takes. Yeah, of course, if white take here, there's this coming, and you don't want to see that as white. So knight d4 and rook to c5. This is a flexible move. Rook d5, d2, covering the 5th rank. Rook d1 played. And here I think maybe Moro is making a mistake. It's also the computer's assessment. He's playing knight d5 now, and this seems to lead to some trouble for black. Something like queen b6 was probably sounder. Knight d5 has got a problem, and the problem is that after knight c2 this is threatened. Black doesn't really have a great reply. He can also take, but this is certainly something somewhat better for white. He played queen to b6. This is the normal, natural looking move. And here white should have taken the chance to play bishop d3. And I'm quite surprised that he didn't do that, because after taking, the ideas like h4, bishop e5, e4 really look dangerous for black, and I think black here needs to be very precise to not being wiped out. This can get to a very dangerous initiative quickly. Let's say black moves this just for argument's sake. Then there's h4, which is dangerous, or queen h6, which is maybe even better. How does he defend this now? There's also e4 and rook lift. Bishop d3 was a chance for white. I think he has some edge after that. Bishop c4 was instead played, and then rook d4. This was the idea probably. Bishop back and h4. So we have a really unclear position and complicated position. Anything can happen. He just retreated here. Takes. And rook g4. Of course, Nakamura is fighting for a win, as always. It will get very sharp soon. Now e4. This is all okay. White is not playing any bad moves. Takes, and e5. Now queen g7. So here white, it seems, should play knight to e1, intending knight d3, queen f3, something like that. Pick up the f-pawn. It's probably it's really an unclear position. I mean, I know that unclear in the age of the computer is a very unpopular assessment, because everybody can easily switch on an engine and get some assessment. But in a game between human players of about equal strength, this is really a position that can go anybody's way. It's so complicated. Black's chances now are on the h-file, something like that, while white maybe also has chances here. There's also the c-pawn. It's so just very complicated. This was played, however, and now black gets a big initiative, probably a decisive one. Rook h8, g3, and rook h6. Now black is doubling on the h-file. yeah, black can open up the position and use his rooks very nicely. Here white is already lost. You cannot defend this anymore. He played queen c6, and after the trade bishop c5, this was reached. Black's trump cards are the bishops, the c-pawn, and white's weak king. Everything together makes it a winning position. Played rook c1 to cover the knight, but after rook here, this was attacked. Knight e3 and bishop d4. Just simple strong play. This pawn is protected, this one is attacked, and what is white supposed to play? There is nothing. Played bishop b5, and now black took it, simply grabbing the pawn. Knight d1 and rook b4, intending to get here. If white now takes, he didn't do that. If white now takes, there's this hanging, of course. So he took on g6. Not a move you like to play, but where exactly is this rook going? Let's say you go here, for argument's sake. It's also not great. Yeah, white is really busted. Naka took on g6 at the end and grabbed c3, but this is at the end of the day it's just an exchange and an extra pawn. A couple of more moves, but there's really not much happening.
Check.
It's just a very simple technical task, and here Nakamura resigned. So he really managed to lose all three final games of this tournament, plummeting down from the top of the leaderboard to 50%. What could have been an excellent tournament really ended disastrously with 3 losses at the end, and with 2 whites on top of it. Yeah, not quite sure what Nakamura is doing. Sometimes it's hard to analyze without knowing any inside information. It's strange though. He's playing absolutely great in the middle of the tournament, and then it's just a disaster at the end. Okay, so now let's have a look at the fight for the final standings. Start with Kramnik against Gelfand. So we have a symmetrical English, and Kramnik playing knight c3, and in some way knight c3 already signals alright, I'm not playing for so much today. In some way it does that on this level. Usually if they want to push, then there's knight f3 with a quick d4 coming, or it's just a bit sharper. Knight c3, the main problem with this is the move g6, and this is what Gelfand is playing. After this we get the symmetrical position, where it is rather difficult for white to make any headway, especially after knight f3, which is the main move. Black has a couple of very solid continuations that white has really a hard time to prove any advantage against. E6 is Fischer's move, very solid. There is d6, e5, even knight f6 is okay, the complete symmetry. So it's a very solid already for black. But what Kramnik is playing now is really a move that says, okay, let's draw. E3 is very, very solid, but very, very drawish. Simply because black can do exactly the same. E6, knight e2, knight e7, castles, castles, d4, takes, takes, takes. Everything's taken. Here white even could take d5, but it's this line is really a complete dead draw with no nothing else possible. Black is quickly attacking the pawn, and we even have some slight imbalance here of pieces, but this is still just a draw. White really doesn't have any substantial plan here to get forward. Yeah, and this even exchanges those two. It's just a completely dull line. After this, here they agree to a draw after this move sequence. Obviously, kind of a non-game, but it's quite understandable. I mean, Gelfand knows that with the draw, he has secured at least shared first place, as Carlsen can only catch up to him with a win with black against Mamedyarov, which isn't easy to do, and Gelfand is not winning against Kramnik with black anyway normally. So Gelfand's solid approach is understandable, and Kramnik simply wants to get it over with this tournament, I guess. This also means, if you look at Moro, he won the game, that Kramnik is is at the bottom end of the table. He lost 3 games, didn't win any, and is the sole last place in this field. And Gelfand is secured shared first with the draw. Let's look at the final game. Mamedyarov against Carlsen. Carlsen has black. He needs to win to catch up with Gelfand. And let's see what he tried to do. All right, so G6. And we get a King's Indian. So a bit of a fighting opening. And Mamedyarov plays G3. He really doesn't play that too often. He usually prefers this more central approach, but okay, this is a really good line. C6 and bishop f5. Interesting, Carlsen plays this before castles. This idea. The idea is that black wants to exchange one pair of minor pieces, and after this, which is very often played, black has a quite solid position. A good bishop here, and black can even sometimes play d5, e6 and take there to set up a very healthy position with all pawns on light squares and the bishop on g7. This is a rather solid setup, but Mamedyarov played differently, didn't even take, played this one, which is quite good. The idea is to play maybe knight h4 later, and in general to push e4. And in fact, after all that, Carlsen takes on c3, and now the rook is here exactly right to get e4 in. Here, in this position, a couple of moves have been tried. Carlsen plays a rare one. He's playing queen to c8. It seems that the most popular and probably best move is the somewhat paradoxical bishop to c8. It's rather strange, I know, undeveloping, but black really needs to get some coordination for his pieces in, and the bishop is not helping so much on f5. What black, for instance, likes to do is something like this: knight here, here, and d5, and the bishop simply gets out of the way and protects the pawn. This is the most popular move that also gives black fairly decent results. Carlsen, however, played queen to c8, which isn't necessarily terrible, but the other move is maybe somewhat better. Well, let's continue. e4, occupying the center, and e5. So white is pushing quickly to make sure that the position opens up, and he makes use of his space advantage this way. He took here and played d takes e5, and now Mamedyarov is playing this very nicely. He doesn't recapture on e5, he just plays rook b1, and this is just stronger than any capture because b7 is threatened. Here Carlsen also had the opportunity, and I actually prefer this move, to play b6. It's not a particularly attractive move, I'm sure. I mean, I know, but I still think he should have done that. After bishop a3, queen c7, this position is certainly a compensation for white, but how much this isn't so clear. White has probably enough, but does he have an edge even? I don't know. Very strong bishops. This was played in the game, and after takes, white now took on b7, which is perfectly alright. He gets the pawn back. He's still a pawn down, but he gets one back. And of course white is excellently positioned here with the both rooks, bishop f4, the bishop here. So it's a very good active position. Black really needs to be cautious here. It seems that still Carlsen had a good continuation here. He played queen to f5, which at the end seems to fail. He could have played knight to d7, and this is much better. Yeah, play gets very complicated now. I only had the time for a rather brief computer-supported analysis. And this analysis seemed to be okay for black, but I'm pretty sure that investing more time is probably rewarding in this position. It's very complicated. One line that is important is queen here, knight e5, and then the point is, if white takes here, black has got the very strong move queen to f5, and this in fact secures the draw after some funny lines with rook b8 starting here, and now king in the corner. Yeah, this is in fact the draw. If you like, you can analyze some lines yourself here, but this is too strong a threat. It's not working immediately, by the way.
Check.
There's this check. So black here needs to take first.
Check.
And now this is threatened, and queen h3. White needs to force the draw with bishop to b2, and after takes, and e5, black has a fine position. Still queen h3 is the issue. If he plays something like this, there's still this one.
Checkmate.
This is one of many checkmates. So probably this isn't too great to take here on a8. White can take first here. Yeah, this is the line after knight d7 and after bishop to e3. It's material equality, but white has got the c-pawn. I believe that black has good chances to hold, but it's not easy to play as well. In the game, he played queen f5 immediately, and this is the problem. Knight d7 is just the relatively best move here. This is what Carlsen played, and this actually is not working at all. Mamedyarov played king g2, but here white had the very strong move bishop to b2. Just a tactical idea. After bishop takes, there's queen a8, and white is in exchange up. I don't really see any comp. There's nothing that black can do. It's very well known that Vichy is such an excellent. I'm sorry, Vichy. I'm confusing this. Also, that Carlsen is such an excellent defender, but I don't really see what black should have in this position. Like this, you can just take here. It's probably just the exchange. So big chance here for Mamedyarov. What he played king g2. Also keeps a pretty decent edge, but it's not as decisive. Knight a6. You need to go somewhere. It's not hanging. Here. And knight c5 attacking the queen, which took on e7. There also was the move queen to c6. That also gives white a pretty big edge. For example, something like this. It's just excellent for white. This is the target. Both these pawns are targets, especially e7. Plus the bishops and so on and so on. It's really ugly. So this was another good opportunity. But he took here knight d3 and rook e4. And it seems that instead of this rook move, maybe bishop f8 or rook d1 was a bit more testing. But white has spoiled some of the edge already. And after rook e4, there was bishop g7 played, which wasn't the best one. Knight e5 was somewhat stronger. And this, I think, secures black good play. I mean, good play, wrong word. A draw, probably by some sort of repetition. A possible line is this rook here. Queen takes. Rook takes. Knight takes. And this. Now, the big mate threat. But
check.
Yeah, this is a draw, perpetual. If white tries to win even,
Check.
there's this one, and black wins. Yeah, bishop g7 instead was played, instead of knight e5. And here, I think white still keeps some edge, but it's not clear that this is really enough to win a game. We get this endgame now with opposite colored bishops, but it's not a pure bishop endgame with rooks on the board. This opposite colored factor isn't so big. It is there, but it's not the decisive issue. In fact, in the game after rook a5, rook d8, Carlsen got some counterplay. Here, quickly going on this. If white now takes a7, there's this one. Oh, he even took there. Sorry, rook f2 is not bad as well. He played bishop d4 though. It's quite similar. Sorry, quite similar. King h3 and bishop e5. Yeah, it's one pawn, but the opposite colored bishops. In fact, after rook d5, bishop to c7, rook d7 here, a draw was agreed, which I found slightly surprising, to be honest, because let's say here it's not clear. I can also look at this. Why not a4? I mean, I understand that black has good chances to draw, because this is not playing. This is an active rook, but it's, I don't know, it's still a pawn. Why not try on a bit? Not sure why Mamedyarov agreed to a draw. The drawing chances for black, for Carlsen, are really good, but yeah, you could have tried a bit more. Alright, maybe he was disappointed because of the missed opportunities earlier. So let's do a quick roundup of the whole event. The big winner is surprisingly Gelfand, who always has been an excellent player, but he rarely wins those kind of events. He's the guy who makes an excellent third place, winning a couple of rating points, not losing a game or only losing one game, but he rarely wins the events. And here he probably played the best chess of his career in terms of a round-robin tournament. If you not look at the candidates in 2011, for example, he also played excellent chess. And he really scored very fine wins without being in trouble. His excellent preparation helps a lot, and always keep in mind he's 44 years old, and this is simply amazing to play the best chess of your career in this rather advanced age in chess terms. And yeah, the main shocker is certainly Kramnik being last. He seems to be, I don't know, out of shape after the candidates. Maybe he put in so much effort into this tournament that after that there's some lack of energy. I mean, it's already 2 months after that, more than 2 months, but still it's probably psychologically very difficult to play after that. I don't know. Carlsen, second place. I guess he won't be too excited about his result, but it wasn't bad at all. I mean, he basically played on the level of his rating. Maybe losing 1 or 2 points. Nothing dramatic. He will play before the World Championship match in the Sinkfield Cup in the US in St. Louis, the first top-level chess event in the US for ages, and together with Nakamura, of course, who's the local hero. Very strong tournament in the US, and Anand I think already announced that he won't play a game until the World Championship match and concentrate on preparation. Yeah, what Carlsen certainly needs to certainly will appreciate is that he won the games he won. He won very nicely. He beat Nakamura when it counted. He beat Anand, the world champion, very good for the upcoming match, and he also beat Kramnik. It's also very important. If you think back to the candidates, it was between those two, and he managed to beat him. All right, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the coverage of this tournament. I'm not quite sure what coverage I'll be doing next. This Sinkfield Cup in the US is one possibility. The only slight issue with this is maybe the time difference. So I'm not quite sure when I'll be able to do any recaps. Let's see what happens. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.